So I guess the key, and the mirror is the thing, and I didn't think it would be in view actually, because it's not that close behind me, but it is there. We can edit that out or whatever. Yeah, so it looked like it would have possibly worked in Zoom. It's just my anxiety and things I've heard kind of made me think, yeah, you know what? It might be better to have it on this screen. I don't know. I just want us to be on the biggest screen, but the webcam's on the laptop, and which is usually all I use. But for this arrangement, and it's not on the big screen. I can get what's on. I can't move the webcam. I can move what's on the screen though. So I do apologize if sometimes I'm looking weird. What might actually be a benefit, but then you won't see her. I was going to say is to put that there, so I'm looking at that. Maybe if I do a bit of a sideways thing. Okay. I have to move this back a bit. I was going to sit this way, but I think I'll sit this way. And then I'll be maybe more in front of the mirror anyway, so it works. Okay, but yeah, it looked like it, but I also don't know if my device is capable of doing all that much new downloads because it's old and probably needs space and yada yada. Okay, so because of that, we could have waited to localize with each other, but, well, I can say that when we get there, but whoops. Okay, where's my paper? We'll keep that down. I don't need to see myself twice, that's okay. Hello. How are you? Can you hear me okay? I like your feature wall there. Okay, so we'll give this a try. What would be ideal, yeah, is to have, too bad that Messenger doesn't have a record option, because that would honestly be most ideal. So I'll just kind of, I guess, look back and forth and we'll go from there. I don't know if I can't make you any bigger on the screen, eh? Yeah. Okay, so I guess, yeah. Well, good to see you. And basically, so this is Michellle diston, and I think I'm saying that right. And yeah, she's in Ontario, and we're not Ontario, sorry. Is it Ontario? So look at it, yeah. And then so we could have waited to try and do this local. We might do one local in the future. However, we're both pretty eager. I haven't had a guest on my podcast for a little while, and yeah, so we're making it work as best as we can. So Michellle works or has her own business in cannabis treatment, wellness type stuff. And I've ever since I've known about it, I've loved the name Canawell with Michellle because it rhymes, which I'm sure was intentional. Yeah, and so now I know you just sent me, but now we have the video over top of that. I had asked about, well, why don't you kind of, I guess from this point, start where you think is best to start off with. And then you said something about weaving, and we'll try and do some weaving.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Oh, I did just want to quickly do a sound check, though, and I meant to do that beforehand. Because when I was moving the machine around, something may have came loose.
Okay, yeah, we want to hear it all.
And it says it does this weird thing sometimes where it says it's upcoming, but then, like, it looks like it's rolling on this screen.
Yeah.
I'll just reload YouTube. I can always get Glenn to check on his device, but yeah, because sometimes it plays it live, and then other times it seems like it's upcoming. There was one time where I did one recently. Oh, there we go. It showed. Okay, let me just see it. Okay, can you say something?
Okay, yeah, can you hear me coming through?
Yeah, there might be a bit of an echo delay, but it's mostly working. Yeah, because there was one time, once or twice when I did one where it switched the AM with the PM, and I had to wait till the evening for it to show up. I don't know how I did that, but anyway, so okay, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so my name is Michellle Diston. I have my business is Canabis with Michellle, and I'm a certified coach. And what's different with working with cannabis in a medical way is that we learn to understand first. Our body actually has a whole system in it that's built to work with cannabis. It's called the endocannabinoid system, and this system is responsible for the balance of all other systems. It's the communication system between them all. When we stub our toe, how does the rest of our body respond? It responds through our endocannabinoid system, through that communication. External stimuli in our environment, our thoughts, our like toxins in the environment, even our relationships with people, all of that affects our body, and it's our endocannabinoid system that travels that messaging across. Now, our body is designed to always be working to get to harmony. Our body wants to be balanced.
That's a good goal.
So it's constantly working on that.
Yeah.
When we get in our way and we start feeding our body with food that our body doesn't like, it has to start working harder. When we push ourselves too hard with really strenuous exercise, our body has to work harder to get back in balance. When we continuously pollute our minds with negative thought loops and just get into a lower vibration and just feeling all of that changes our body, and we have to work harder to get back into balance.
Yeah.
So our body is designed to be healing all the time, and it's always working to come back into balance. So it's responding in ways that it gives us more enzymes to create things that help remove our toxins, or it diminishes more inflammatory cytokines in our body, so we feel less pain. All of those things are working all the time. So when we start getting ourselves back into calm, peaceful state, our body will start to heal, and we will get healthier and healthier all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the endocannabinoid system. Now, our body has cannabinoids as well. So anandamide is the bliss molecule. So and it's the same molecule. It's almost the same structure, cellularly, as THC. And so when we have those moments of joy, those wow moments in nature, when we see a beautiful sunset and that feeling comes over us and we feel absolute bliss, that's a THC. So you can see how when we have THC in our body, that we can experience some of those same blissful moments. Now, if you're not feeling that same kind of bliss when you're smoking your THC and you just kind of zoom past it and you go into like numbing out, that's a sign that you're not bringing the balance to your body. You're probably smoking too high of THC or concentrates that have lost some of the plant material, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's doses are important, especially when first starting out. And it's kind of a complex world. Thanks for not being too distracted that I'm in and out of the camera. It's just I'm kind of in a tight area here, but it'll hopefully look good on the screen. I was trying to get this so that it's close as I can get you to that screen, pretty much. But yeah, it's a complex world. Whether it's because they have different flavorings or whatever that they or different compounds or whatever, and so yeah, but when you find the right mix or whatever, which is probably the hardest part, maybe. I know that, and some of the stuff that you just said, by the way, I think you were kind of alluding to in the email. And of course, there's so many components with life, and but this is just kind of, I guess, one helping element that a lot of people find beneficial. And so basically,
Cannabis is so complex. little trichomes, those little clear, like little mushroom caps that you see on the cannabis.
Mind-boggling, yeah.
Crystals. In each of those little trichomes, there's over 400 components in there.
Right.
So we have cannabinoids. So there's your THC and CBD, and then there's hundreds of cannabinoids, CBG, all the acidic components of them, CBN. I won't go into all the alphabet soup, but there's lots of different cannabinoids out there.
Yeah.
What else is in there is the terpenes, and unfortunately, our stores don't label the terpenes all the time on their packaging. Some do, and that's great because it's the terpenes that drive the effects. So that it's going to be the smell of it. It's going to be the components that are working in our body to drive the effects. And that's what you were saying about the different smells and the different mixes. So when we start actually looking at the terpenes, then we see what's working for us and what isn't. So for me, when I smoke cannabis, it's high in limonene and pinene and caryophyllene. I find it's got a lot of focus. It keeps me wide awake. I want to clean my house. I want to work on a project and like really deep dive and focus. I have like good extreme focus in those kind of times with energy. So those are what people would call sativas. Now sativa and indica are kind of outdated terms because those would usually just determine the difference of the way the plant grows, not so much the effects, especially now that things are more hybrids because there's so many mixed breeding.
Mm.
So knowing the terpenes is important, especially when you're looking for it in a therapeutic way. If I want to have a really good sleep, I'm not going to be having limonene and pinene in my cannabis because that's going to keep me awake all night.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to have a really good sleep and not feel pain, I'm going to find something that has neuroladol, terpenoline, and myrcene. Those are calming. Linalool is great for that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily add terpenoline for me because in my body, when I have terpenoline, I feel like that. I feel really cold. I get shivery,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of highlights my pain instead of allows me to move away from the pain. Right. So even though it's still technically a sativa, an indica blend, right? We always say indica in the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Those terpenes, right? Those terpenes are calming and relaxing, and we feel it in our body. Sometimes people say that they feel like their pain has been highlighted. Well, that's because cannabis is a master plant, and it teaches us. So when we are doing the same habits and doing the same routines that have caused that pain, when we have cannabis that brings us into our body, like the indicas, they bring us into our body, and we're concurrently in those same non-conforming patterns, it's going to highlight that for us. It's going to show us, hey, sitting on the couch in this position that's hurting your hips, and you're sitting on the couch in this position, and we're highlighting that awareness. We're highlighting your senses. So now you're like, I'm really super aware of how much my hips hurt from sitting on this couch. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And so as cannabis, as a master teacher, it tells me, no sitting on the couch right now. You need to work on your hips. Go down to your yoga mat and do some exercise so your hips feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, like I don't know, like everybody is different, and I mean, like you can notice that that those are sometimes the needs, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's a helping element. That's I think it would be a way to look at it, and.
Absolutely. It's not a cure-all. It's a master teacher. It helps us to listen to ourselves. It helps us to find our balance within ourselves too, right? And I mean, it does still change our physiology, especially when we start working with CBD and CBG and some of those
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about those letters and what they mean and what the differences are. And
yeah, so whereas THC helps us really bring that connection and even a spiritual connection. And I love THC for that. And I do cannabis meditations. It really brings the THC as the star player. But when we start working in our
I
body,
guess
we
you can
want
see
to
more. That's
correct
weird.
that. We bring in more of CBD. It's huge in our body. It hits us in over 68 different points in our body. You think about saying like an Advil or specific medication, and they take one molecule and it affects one molecule in our body, and then when we oversaturate that in our body, then our body becomes out of balance, and then you start seeing the trend. Well, I need this medication now because my first medication was causing a stomach upset, so now I need something to manage my stomach upset. That's causing me now some skin rash, so I need to take a medicine for that, and I need to take something for those headaches, and then then we're on these pharmaceutical cocktails of like 20 meds.
Well, I was just going to say, that's the nice thing. And I think if I look at this screen, you're seeing me on that screen. I don't have to necessarily try and look at both. That's the kind of nice thing about this cannabis, and is that it is a natural plant. The window open for some fresh air. Hopefully nobody's. It is one of those topics, it's sometimes still taboo, but it's become a lot more mainstream. Of course, it's legal where we are. It's. I guess I think I've heard medication called synthetic before. This is not, necessarily telling people that, to go off their meds or anything, if they've found what's worked for them. But for some people, they just aren't as receptive to meds, or, anything can have side effects. But I think it was something of yours that I seen you post or that you'd written where it said that there are less side effects. I mean, like I say, there's a science to all of this. And, you talk about all these different elements, but there are probably people in labs that are, adjusting these different things to the different strains. And like you see some of, like I saw one the other day, was a greenhouse. It was just full of, it was amazing. So it's very natural. And that actually was one of the things I wanted to ask, is that, so I know that we have the endocannabinoid system, but as far as how many of these elements, there's probably quite a few that are fairly natural in the system already, but it's a matter, I guess, of balance. And sometimes, just like with, I know I've been looking a lot in my life about with what vitamins am I deficient in, or iron, this and that. It's like you might be deficient in certain elements, where you could possibly, I've never thought of it this way before, but you could even possibly consider cannabis to be almost like a vitamin of sorts, if that makes sense.
We see that all the time. All of us cannabis coaches, when we're filling out our own medical forms, and if they ask about drugs, we'll say no, but if it asks what our supplements and vitamins are, we'll put cannabis there.
Oh, really?
Right? We do consider it as a supplement. When we take, I take a daily oil, and it has, maybe 2 milligrams of THC, which would be like one puff of a joint.
Yeah, it's not necessarily smoking. There's oils and stuff, yeah.
5-6 milligrams of CBD. I have CBG, which is my favorite because that's a nervous system calming. It really, I find this great for ADHD and mood boost in depression, which is what I went through. I was on antidepressants for over 20 years and still had depression. So it wasn't solving my issues. It was just numbing those emotions, so I didn't have as many extreme outbursts.
Well, that's a very interesting point. Sorry to interrupt, but that just kind of comes to mind. It's like, I've often thought that with meds is that, and I'm not the only one either. Like, lots of people say that, and again, not saying go off your meds, but it's kind of like it's a numbing thing. And to a large extent anyway, like, it's not, there's always other things, and this is including if you decide to do a cannabis product, there's always other things that some people would say need to be part of that toolbox, of that recovery plan, so to speak, or whatever. So, I mean, but just the the studies, and then when you look into it a bit more, knowing the natural elements, like which either don't exist or have been compromised in a lot of medications.
Exploited, I would say, right? Like they've taken it down and it's so over processed
Yeah.
and refined that we've actually lost the spirit of the plant that it came from in the first place, right? Whereas working with the natural plant medicine, all the spirit is still in it. It's there. It's got the sunshine. It's got the water element. It's got all of the things that grew beside it, the nutrients from the earth.
I was trying to figure out that thing on the side there, if that is chakras or if that's elements.
Yeah, those are the chakras.
Okay.
Our body,
which are the
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all part of. That's even all part of the endocannabinoid system, right? All of the energy centers of our body. It all relates in our well-being. We can talk about like the frequency of each of those as well, where when we talk about bringing ourselves up, like raising our vibration, increasing our energy, and we increase our energy when we become more in balance, right? When we're eating foods that energize us, when we're doing movement that improves our wellness and not defeats us, right? When you don't need like heavy cardio and lifted major weights, you just have to flow. You just gotta do your gardening and.
Well, whether it's mental health or physical, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of benefits to doing these kind of products, I guess. So of course, like, I mean, yeah, some people are gonna be, either more drawn to or just comfortable enough doing the smoking element. There is, as you've mentioned, different kinds of rubs and ointments. Probably gel.
Methods, and those relate differently to your different symptoms and conditions that you have. I've got a really great CBD pain salve that has 5 different essential oils in it as well that also help bring it through the skin barrier. But that works great for arthritis pain and muscle pain and stiffness.
So I've been having a lot of
Having MCT oil drops, and I can make like a multi-cannabinoid blend that's specific, like something that's directly for gut issues and something that's for calming your mind or immune system boost. I can do, and then dry herb vaporizing. You mentioned vape carts, but to me, I find that that's kind of, again, stripping away some of the spirit of the plant because it's gone right down into the concentrate of it.
Well, that would be the oil, right? In there.
What's that?
Well, they call it juice too, but that would be like the oil base of it.
Yeah, and there's some that are really beautiful that are like the resin of the plant, like it's still the whole plant. And some are extracted with chemicals, and the ones that are extracted with chemicals are not as safe for us.
And that's what we hear people saying, yeah.
But the full plant material, and not everybody's comfortable with inhalation all the time because it does get hot. And you find when you can use methods that help cool it more before it gets to your lungs, it's better. So like filters or longer tubes or like a smoking, a crutch, a smoking crutch, right? Then it cools more before it comes into your lungs. But then a dry herb vaporizer is it's a conduction heat instead of a combustion. We're not burning the plant; we're just heating it up hot enough so that it vaporizes. And I use that form a lot, like a dry herb vaporizer. It's the cleanest smoke of real plant material. My mentor from the Effective Cannabis newsletter had MAC lung disease, COPD, and asthma, and she has gotten rid of 20 nodules in her lungs by dry herb vaporizing. So it's still through inhalation of cannabis, and she's healing her lung issues. Where so many people have a fear of, I don't want to inhale because of my lungs.
Yeah.
But it actually, it's been healing her, and it's.
And it takes some getting used to probably, but yeah. Now I wanted to also
The other way is edibles too, and
right,
edibles,
of course.
you have to be careful with it because THC, which is more potent in our body, and that's why so many people have had some scary stories with edibles, right? Our mantra is
I've not heard them, but yeah.
Start low, go slow.
Yeah.
Start low, go slow. So having a 2.5 milligram edible, and I always wanted people to do like a 1-to-1 THC CBD, right? You don't have to just do THC. Trying it with both, because then it hits, like I said, over 68 different points in your body is CBD, and it's working all at the same time. Like all these things happening at the same time to create more balance in your body. So having a THC CBD 1-to-1 in your edible is always recommended.
So.
And then they last longer too in your body. And then the more percentage you go, the longer it lasts in your body. So if you know that you...
So what's a good percent for starting with then?
Tomorrow, you're going to want a little lower dose.
Yeah. What's a good percentage usually to start with? Is that how it's looked at?
For beginners of smoking cannabis, I always want people to start really low, like a 10%.
Okay.
Right now, our stores are all promoting these, like 30%, these heavy hitters for people that have been smoking for a long time.
That's a good point.
It's harder to find those nice, gentle, balanced blends. So you really do have to ask, and you have to advocate for it. I want a 1-to-1 THC, CBD, maybe even a THC, CBD, CBG blend in the smoking. I know Abide Cannabis does a lot of these beautiful blends.
Okay.
And you can ask for it at your stores, and I encourage people to ask for the lower percentages, because the uneducated consumer is controlling our markets, and if people that don't know the beautiful components, therapeutic components of the plant, are consistently going in for concentrates, distillates, diamonds, and the high THC, then that's what our stores are going to hold. So if we have to ask, we have to fill our stores with the stuff that's therapeutic for us.
But like with Glenn, I don't know how long he's been doing it for, but he's certainly mostly at a safe point to be a bit kind of explorative with that, and without too much problem. But speaking of products, I wanted to remember to ask, because you make and sell some things as well, and what would you like to say on that? What seems to be your most well received products, and why do you think?
So definitely a fan favorite is my CBD pain salve. I would sell it at the market. I give people a little sample while they're at the market. I go, just put it on your sore spot, rub it on your hip, rub it on your foot, whatever. Go through the market. You'll be back to my booth before you leave, and like 90% of the time people they come back because it works.
And it's a small, gentle. It's not like there's a lot of risk in doing that. So yeah, it's kind of like a sample.
There's no risk in that. Even children can have a cannabis pain salve, even if it has THC in it. It's not going to get into your blood. It's not going to make you high as a topical.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, kids have a lot of health problems too, or whatever. And I mean, I never really made the connection. I mean, we know that there's probably lots of kids on meds, but is it fairly common in that age demographic too? I mean, because that's saying a lot. Like, I mean, if the parents, again, it's legal. If the parents are, comfortable with it, then, and it's helping, then.
Yeah, that's a great topic, because it is still like a slippery slope. People have a lot of fear around cannabis still, and there's still a lot of stigma, and so they think, oh, if I'm giving it to my kid, that's wrong. But there have been so many beautiful cases of children with epilepsy.
Right, it's kind of where my mind went.
And I'm not saying it is only CBD, because there's some kids that really respond well to just CBD, and reduce their seizures immeasurably. Like people that were having like 200-300 seizures a day down to like maybe 1 or 2.
I would hope that's not a thing, or not very common.
Right? Significantly decreased it, and so these children and these families to find peace through cannabis, and they're advocating strongly for it, right? They have to do it every step of the way because it's for children. But there's many children that don't respond that well to CBD and need the THC. And it's interesting to see how kids can respond to THC in such a positive way and handle it without being high. I have a peer that works with children with autism, and it has significantly improved the lives of these children. And there was something I was specifically going to say with that, but she's really helped these children and the parents just find relief and have a better quality of life through this. But it's been a tough battle.
Welcome to comment. Yeah, for sure. I guess that's a misconception I had, where I thought that CBD and THC were always together in the product, but it sounds like it's quite customizable. Of course, there's you, and we want to plug you, and I'm still learning. I'm not an expert in any of this. But what? How does one, I guess, decide to? I don't know how to ask this. How does one get kind of in beginning? What's that?
Or like to start the conversation, even?
Yeah, like how, okay, I decide that I do want to give this a try. Reputable ways of doing so, and being, I guess, part of that customizing activity, for lack of a different way to put it. But of course, people that are looking into this also, if they are very new to it, well, hopefully we're giving them some good information with this, because otherwise you wouldn't know what to do.
Knowing that there's more to cannabis than THC is your first opener, right? Getting curious about it. Is this something that can work for me? And when I work with someone, I start with a discovery call and just mention, like just a 15-minute call. This is what we would do. This is how I work. Are you interested? Are you do we want to work together? And then from there, I ask a lot of questions, because
you sent me a form this morning. I haven't looked at it yet. It was about an hour ago.
Yeah. But it's not just about what's your physical symptom right now. That's what doctors do. Doctors will look at that symptom and fix that symptom. Doctors deal with sick care, with sick things. What have you got? Here, I'm going to fix it. But what I do is I work with your health. We're maintaining your health, and it's up to you to know your body. And so when we work with what's deeper than just the symptom, where did the symptom start from? What's the root? That's what I'm going to aim to do, right? So if somebody comes to me and they say, I want something for sleep, I'm like, okay, well, what's your sleep like? Are you able to fall asleep, or is it that you're not able to stay asleep? What's happening when you wake up? Is it from pain? Is it your mind going? Right? These different questions are going to bring a different combination for each person, right? If it's a physical pain that you're experiencing, people are going to really focus on CBD and letting it hit all those things and bring some healing to those. If it's chronic pain and that's what wakes you up, I would throw in more THC. And if it's your mind that's racing, I bring in some CBG for like calming the mind and stuff like that, right? So it all depends on the question. So just sleep doesn't tell me much. What's causing that sleep? What's keeping you awake? What's your sleep routine like before you go to bed?
That, yeah, there was something that you said there, and it kind of briefly perplexed me, but I think that's the difference, like as opposed to like a cannabis wellness coach or a doctor, where you can go into a doctor, and there's oftentimes, whether it's a doctor or a psychiatrist, they're then going to prescribe medication. It's kind of like like they might look at a couple things or whatever, but not that you don't see a lot, but they see a lot in their practice, and so they, I guess, have some go-to thing, and not that you don't as well, I suppose, but yeah, I think that's with having a wellness coach of this type, or really any type, you're more able to go deeper. And I think that's something I've noticed, like with my doctor, who I've recently just kind of restarted with it. It's like, you get 15 minutes and stuff can get missed. And so it's a good way to incorporate into, looking at your taking being proactive yourself as well.
For your own health, advocating for your health. That's what we like to promote. Advocate for your own health. And you can go to the doctor, absolutely. You go to the doctor and they can do the testing. They can tell you if your nutrients are low, or if your blood levels are off, or if there's something happening in your body, but like for me, when I got to the doctor and I said, "Oh, I'm so glad that all of my tests are negatives and everything was normal," and she looked at me like, most people aren't relieved to see that, because they come in thinking, there's something wrong with me. Tell me what's wrong with me. But now I know it's just up to me. I got to do the work. I got to make sure I'm keeping my body healthy and moving and mobile, and that and I know that I can do that because I've got that worked into my daily routines now. But also, but I also encourage being able to work with your doctor and work with your meds. I even have like a drug-to-drug interaction checker that I'm able to do to make sure, and it's mostly CBD that interacts with different drugs.
That's good to know, and that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things that you shouldn't have cannabis with, and so of course once I ask those questions too, and I know all your medications that you're on, then I can make recommendations or suggestions around that. But then there's some that will start working more effectively because cannabis and mostly CBD is bringing, once their body starts coming more into balance, those medications aren't needed as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I encourage working with your doctor about that. So if your meds are working better because you're using this cannabis formula, then talk to your doctor about slowly removing them. Never just go off any cold turkey. That's never ever recommended, right? Everything is when you start building your body dependency on any product, even coffee, right? You have to slowly wean yourself off so that your body understands how to make the change. But when we cut ourselves off something, our body kind of goes into a panic. Mm-hmm. Right?
That's an interesting example actually with coffee, because at first my first thought was that I'm not going to be changing that, but I think I kind of did it naturally. I don't know how long ago exactly, but like I don't necessarily finish a cup in the morning. I put it in the fridge and add to it later. Do that cycle over and over. I do want to remember before we finish up a couple other questions that come to mind. One is we've been talking about doctors and stuff. Why do you think that that doctors are? Because one thing that came to mind as I'm thinking of the question is like, this isn't exactly a new plant or a new thing, and that was initially why I thought they might not really be on board. And so. It's great in a way because, like, all the doctors that aren't comfortable doing it, or some of them, they're not going to necessarily say no, and everybody can make their own choices, but it gives people like you the ability to then come into the equation and do your work. So, on one side of things, we wouldn't want to necessarily change that, but I am kind of curious as to why you think that they are kind of so, I guess, reserved about that. And then before I forget, I don't know if it's a good question or not, but and of course there's lots of pluses, we both know that, and we're learning that. Are there any drawbacks to this type of treatment? There's treatment and then there's recreational as well, right? So.
Yeah. So a couple of good questions. I'll start with the doctors. And doctors, they're not educated about the endocannabinoid system in med school.
Not educated about it, yeah.
They do a tiny little, 15-minute blurb about the system that's there, but they don't really understand that system. So as my work with the Effective Cannabis newsletter is really out there to help patients advocate to their doctors and to help doctors find healing stories and scientific proof so that they start understanding the benefits of it. There's a lot of doctors that carry the stigma. They see the detriments of it in the hospital, or they see
holistic it's a holistic. Yeah.
And like I said, these high concentrates, the high THC, we're seeing more cannabis hyperemesis disorder. We're seeing even more cases of psychosis. And as a cannabis health coach, and I know the beauty of this plant, I never want to admit those harms that are out there. But the way society has brought cannabis along, we're seeing more of that. When we go back,
in other words, there's safe ways to do it and less safe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting less safe because we promoted it more recreationally. Now, even recreational consumption is healing. We're looking for something to, maybe a social filter, maybe to ease our pain, maybe to have fun and laugh. And there's healing in laughter and joy, right? To just get the giggles and laugh. You feel so good. You don't remember the stress of the day.
Yeah, cannabis groups.
So we argue that recreational is still medical even when you don't know it.
Yeah.
But when we start putting our body out of balance, like I said, like with these higher percentages, that's when we start seeing the cases that are showing up in the hospitals. And those are what doctors are seeing. Right? They're not seeing the beautiful cannabis experiences that we're getting at home and through cannabis and meditation and cannabis and yoga. And man, it just, like, when you can get into your body and then do your stretches through a yoga practice, it really heightens that experience.
It's always about adjusting the system, whether it's with this stuff or different things that one is trying to incorporate. Yeah. I thought of one other thing I may have alluded to in the past. We've been in communication. And again, one of those things, because it's not stuff I think about a whole lot, kind of formulating the question as I'm formulating it or thinking it. And it feels like it kind of stems off of something that you just said as well. I guess the way to ask it would be, is cannabis treatment... well, it probably is most beneficial if you're catching certain things early in your health issues or whatever.
It works even in stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
Another friend and colleague through Education, another association I'm part of in Canada, and she has eliminated her stage 4 lung cancer. She's got an incredible story and a few stories in the Effective Cannabis newsletter. And she also has eliminated tumors in her brain. She had glioblastoma cancer. So she went from her stage 4 lung cancer, let go of those health patterns that she had already cultivated. The cancer came back as brain cancer, and now she's like, this is a lifestyle change.
You need to go back to it, yeah. It's like the miracle, the wonder drug, as they call it. It's that D word that sometimes makes it taboo, but yeah.
But I don't like using the word wonder drug in there either, because it has to be intentional. It has to be, like, you can't just go, this is my cure-all.
Pop it and be fine, yeah.
Right? It has to be intentional. You need to know, what are you working on? Why am I coming to cannabis for healing? What am I working on? What do I want to feel like after, right? And so then you put those intentions into your medicine. And when we grow, as part of a grow group, we start with sucking our seeds and planting the intentions of our medicine right there in our seeds before we plant. Because it's a very intentional healing. We know we want to we want to calm our anxiety. So now when we consume cannabis, we can say, did this calm my anxiety? Yes, it did. Okay, well, I'm gonna take note of this. It's this percent THC, this percent CBD, and these terpenes. Now I know that if I go anywhere in the world, if I know this percent of THC, this percent of CBD, and this combination of terpenes, I will find my peace. Mm-hmm. Right? You can go anywhere in the world. Where if you go, I'm going to have Blue Dream. Well, Blue Dream in the States States, a blue dream in the UK, and blue dream somewhere else, they're all going to be different because they're growing in different elements. Their environment changes their effects, including how much has been watered, what nutrients are in the soil, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. When you know your combination that works for you, you can go back to that over and over and over again. But working with a coach is where you work to find that ideal dose, right? So we sample stuff up and then we eliminate what doesn't, and we.
I mean, it makes sense, you know, depending on the environment and the place or whatever. So with that said, then I guess it's kind of a curious question, especially since for the first time in a while, I might be taking a trip soon with visiting somebody who actually has a form of cancer. I don't remember what stage, it might be early to mid, but how does traveling work? Like if you wanted to bring like the product that you know that is best for you with you, I mean, in your suitcase, it's probably safe, right?
So across Canada, we can.
Oh, we can.
It's federally legal all across the country. We can travel with cannabis, but you can't travel with more than
a certain amount.
30 grams.
Right.
You can only carry in your possession 30 grams. And you can carry that right in your pocket across Canada,
okay.
Airplanes and whatever. But if you're crossing any other borders, you can't.
Right.
Even in the States where some places are legal, some aren't. Federally across the States,
that would be frustrating.
It's illegal still.
Yeah.
Right? So they won't allow you to cross the border with cannabis at all. And even to other countries, I'm not exactly sure how that goes, but I would recommend not traveling with it, but having a source at the other end.
Yeah.
That can provide it. Or even mailing your medicine to the address where you're going to stay and then having it once you're there.
Well, that's a really good idea. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, well, we can pretty much wrap up now, but I'm just thinking about the irony of how one of the emails I sent just before we started was mentioning someone that I knew the son and kind of his sister too, but his mother is 105, I believe. Sometime right around this time of April. And you gotta wonder, even if she's not, smoking it, if she is getting this kind of treatment somehow, because at that age, you've got to imagine that things should be happening. And it's like every day I'm like, looking up her name. Oh, no, I guess she's still around. I'm finding a picture, not that, the afterlife is something else, but yeah. So, which could maybe be a topic for a future one, but yeah, so that's, I mean, it also kind of makes me think about an ironic song, Who Wants to Live Forever? I think it's Queen. And I mean, but at the same time, there's so many different causes of death, whatever. And and that's been the case for a long time. But at the same time, I feel like lately I've been hearing about more people passing away in their 50s or 60s, especially men. Maybe it's just more what I'm hearing.
You'll notice how many men are so wound up and angry and resentful.
Well, they bottle a lot in it.
Stressed and like the economy and the news and all that stuff, and all of that brings sickness to our body. So
the cannabis can help with that too. And then if you are smoking it, I've often felt that smoking is. I mean, there are various things that make it addictive, but one of the things is really just the motion. And the way it makes you breathe, even if it's not natural, healthy breathing. Well, actually, it does it. In some ways, it's bringing you more to that level or that balanced type of breathing or whatever. But that's where this kind of stuff is more safe than. That's something that I didn't realize at first. It's more safe than cigarettes, kind of thing.
Smoking, it's going to cause lung cancer or whatever. Well, you will see in any respiratory wing that there's nobody that just smokes cannabis there with with lung issues. If anything, it's from their cigarette use. But people who smoke cannabis alone, some of the benefits of the cannabis outweigh the detriments of the inhalation, but there is still going to be that combustion that's still going to cause some harm in your lungs. So it's not like completely harmless, but it's not to the same kind of point as nicotine. You also mentioned something else there too about breathing, And I just want to mention that that is another really big part to what I do is bringing in breath work. So like good diaphragmatic breathing. We don't breathe properly anymore. We don't bring that breath all the way to our belly. We have 3 different diaphragms, one in the belly, one that expands our ribs outward, and then our chest. And when we start using all 3 of those, right, bringing breath all the way to the belly, then expanding the ribs, then the chest, all in that same inhale, and then we bring so much oxygen at the same time, and then a really long, slow exhale and exhaling it all the way out. You feel your body completely relax into that.
And of course, a lot of people, they do this in their meditations or whatever, and that's actually kind of how we initially connected, is over a meditational product called the Singing Bowls. So, so that was kind of brought it all together in a nice way. Well, I'm glad we were able to do this. I'll be curious to watch it back later and dealing a bit and that. And yeah. And
so I just want to mention too, like, so with that meditation, that's one of my big things that I like to do is an online cannabis.
Oh, you were gonna do one. How like can you do like a 5 or 10 minute one?
Well, I can bring you just through breath work relaxation to finish this off. But my cannabis soul connections are kind of so that's what I call it, a cannabis soul connection. And
you have to have the product with you.
But it's about 45 minutes long. I have a ceremonial smoking ceremony before we go and honor the plant, and then breath work, and it's curated through a playlist that helps bring the emotion in that I want you to seek on the guided meditation.
Right.
So it's a really beautiful experience. I recommend it to anyone. I have one this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. and I'd invite you and Glenn to come. I'll give you the Zoom link directly, and you can come for free if you'd like to experience it together. But it is it's a beautiful experience.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Cool. All right.
People can find it on my website, canabiswithmichellle.com.
canabiswithmichellle.com. Yeah. .com. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah. You too.
Bye-bye. Oh, I guess I should wrap this up. And stream. Boom, boom.